Señor, abre mis labios y mi boca proclamará tus alabanzas. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall proclaim your praise. Amen. The scriptures today talk a lot about temptation. The serpent tempting Eve in the garden, Satan tempting Jesus in the wilderness. We're always surrounded by temptation. The interesting thing for me in the temptations of Jesus is that there's this subtle temptation that isn't super obvious. And that subtle temptation comes in the form like this. Satan says to Jesus, if you are the Son of God, if you are the Son of God. It says that a couple of times. So the temptation then is for self-doubt. Who are you really? If you are the Son of God, you have to prove it to me. Now, what happened in the Garden of Eden was that Eve got confused about who she was. She got her role mixed up. She misunderstood the relationship between herself and God. Whereas Jesus, you recall at the first line of the gospel says that Jesus, after he was baptized, went into the wilderness. Well, this is the very, very beginning of Jesus' public ministry. So he's in the River Jordan, he gets baptized, and then he gets driven into the wilderness. So he's in the wilderness for several days, 40 days, 40 nights. And during all that time, he's in communion with God. He's in prayer. He is coming to terms with what his role is in his life. What is he supposed to be doing? He's having conversation, he's having meditation, prayer. He is self-identifying with what it is and who he is in relationship to God. And at the end of that time, he is, though physically weakened, spiritually strengthened by the relationship that he has built up with God. Whereas Eve's relationship with God had not been strengthened. And so it was easy for the serpent to trick her, to tempt her into, fool her into believing that by eating from this one tree that she could be like God, because she got confused about who she was in relationship to God. And there's always that temptation that we understand better who we are. But I would say that if you are interested in who you really are, you have to have a reference point. It's like a plumb line, like a benchmark, so that you can differentiate. That's what in psychology they call it self-differentiation, because you identify yourself apart from anyone else. Some people, a lot of people, when I was first ordained, would say to me, why did you become a priest? And I imagine they were expecting something like, oh, I'm so, holy or whatever. And my answer has always been, because if I weren't a priest, I'd be all over the place. I need the structure around me to kind of, because as a young person, I was all over the place. Now, I'm not going to define what all over the place means. But one day, in the midst of, some angst or another, I began to believe that there was something else I was supposed to be doing, that I was supposed to be living in a different kind of way. Now, I was raised Roman Catholic, and my mother was extraordinarily influential in my life. She made us all go to church from the time we were born. We were always involved in the church. But in the Catholic Church, you kind of sort of just went. There was not this sense of why. You never asked why, you just did it. At least in those days. And so I was I was involved in the church in leadership roles from the time I was, 14, 15 years old. I was representing the Archdiocese in Washington on youth panels and whatnot. So I was always very involved with the church, but I didn't really have a relationship. And then one day, some silly thing had happened. And in a moment of clarity, I came upon this thought that finally entered my inner core of who I was. I was a child of God. I belonged completely to God. I was bowled over by that thought about finding that sense of identity. So I followed Jesus because knowing Jesus and having Jesus in my life gives me that reference point, gives me that understanding of who I am, that place that anchors me and allows me to go off and take risks and do things that I normally would not do. Now, in many ways, my family plays that role. I'm very close to my family. I'm the only one in my family that's out of the grid, of Texas. But the only reason that I can do that is because I know that my family backs me up. I know that my family supports me. My family will stand by me, and so therefore I risk just going out into, outside of Texas is the wilderness. And so I dared to go out to New York and Delaware, and now I'm over here, which Bill affectionately calls it the land of fruits and nuts. But I can do that because I have very strong family ties. But even as strong, and those of you who know a little bit about me know how close I am to my family. But even with all of that, even though I am very, very close to my family, my true anchor is my relationship with Jesus. That's where I get courage and strength. That's where, if I get knocked down, if I get tempted and I fall, and I follow a temptation that is totally erroneous, because of my relationship with Jesus Christ, I can get back up. I can be strengthened by the things that tear me down. When we're assaulted by insult or injury or insult, all the things that we struggle with in our day-to-day lives, and sometimes the extraordinarily awful things that happen to us, we have a way of coming back up because of our relationship with Jesus Christ. So today, the first Sunday in Lent, Ash Wednesday was the first day of Lent. Today is the first Sunday of Lent. Every year we have this opportunity to dig in deep, to see what is it in our lives that keeps us from that relationship with God, that relationship with Jesus Christ, that could be that sustaining force for us. That's not to say that God can only appear in this particular way, but for us, for those of us who profess Christianity, who believe in Jesus Christ, this is the way. And it's the way because, for me, it's the way because it's what works. It's what works for me. It's the understanding that I have that has helped me through just death and disease and illness and false accusations and all the other travesties that have ever happened in my life. Jesus Christ has been the one to pick me up and embrace me and strengthen me and given me so much love that I'm able to go forward. Love like that can make you feel like you can fly. So Lent is that time where you can strengthen that relationship, where you can look seriously at what is your role with God. How is God's influence playing out in your life? Where is Jesus in your life, in your day-to-day life. Where is he? Is he in the middle? Is he off to the sides? Where is he? It's time. During Lent, it's time to put him right in the middle, right in your heart, right in the day-to-day decisions that you make about everything. So we've given this, the church gives us this time, this season. And we do things very different during Lent because we're trying to hammer home the fact that this is a different kind of time of the year. This is the time for you to take opportunity to be introspective. Look inside. Invite Jesus in. Don't waste this Lent. Amen.